Oh, wow, the chair's bouncy.
A little.
Bro, the chair's mad bouncy.
Whoa! I like it. You shouldn't be adjusting it too much.
But look, I can't deal with that. Hello again, welcome back to Tech Corner with myself, Shea.
And Jay.
Today we're going to be talking about how you can utilise your space in the best possible way for recording. So today we are in Studio E at Metropolis. This is a lovely space to record in.
Beautiful spot.
Lovely spot. Nice K-Series 9000 desk by SSL. Acoustically treated. I'm sure you can agree this is a perfect spot to record in.
I mean, you can't imagine much more of a better spot than somewhere like this to really record anything in, to be honest with you.
It's just a beautiful space. Loads of equipment. However, you don't need a space like this in order to get professional recordings. You can use the spot that you are in or the place where you're sat right now watching this video. You can use that place to record. And there's a few things that you can do in order to gain and achieve high-level professional recordings. And we're going to go through a few today.
That's right.
So the first one, reflection filter. You want to talk us through what the point is in that?
Well, the reflection filter, it's basically a very small mobile recording booth, vocal recording booth, or instrument recording booth, if you like. But what it does essentially is it mimics the environment of an ideal booth, and it does it in a very portable, easy to put together fashion. It's relatively cheap to buy on the market, that being about £200, that sort of price region. They really do hold their value though, so you can get them really good secondhand if you wanted to. There's also lots of other variants of this type of piece of equipment. To be honest with you, bro, it's really good. It's really solid. I mean, I've used it for quite a long time now in my studio. It's also really good to take on the road. So if you're recording from home or if you're going, you know, even to a hotel, even in the back of a bus, I've seen someone use this on a tour recording once. So it really is, you know, just good for immediate acoustic treatment of any environment that you don't necessarily have control over that environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I've got a smaller one of these, which is like literally about this big, and it cost me 25 quid off Amazon.
Oh wow!
And it's a tiny little cup thing, like an exact version of that, but a lot smaller, and not by the company SE. But it does essentially the same thing. So all it's doing is it's stopping the reflections bouncing around the room and coming back to the microphone. It just cups that microphone to give you some isolation around the recording. And like Jay said, it's not just for vocals. Like you could use this when you're recording guitar, when you're recording anything, just to stop those early reflections bouncing back and being picked up by the microphone. Number 2 on the list is speaker placement. So where it is you are listening to your audio system, what it is you're listening on. Now, I'll probably understand most of you are doing this in headphones. That's not a problem. That's a good idea because it's going to give you a nice isolated listening environment. However, it's always good to reference your tracks on a set of speakers, and where those speakers are makes a huge difference. As you can see in here, there's an array of speakers. We have PMC stacks, we've got Genelecs, we've got NS10s. There's a lot of options in here. The main thing about these speakers though is where they are placed. Now, the ideal position is around about ear height. These are a little bit high on the near field monitors. However, normally when you're working in a place like this, you're normally leaning forward like this across the desk, so your head is generally around the middle of the speaker. I've seen so many times, and you've probably seen this so many times, people's studios where they've got one speaker on top of a wardrobe and one down by their calf on the left.
Terrible.
And wonder why their mix sounds trash.
Yeah, I mean, that is, you know, if you're a DJ, that's not terrible, because again, you're at that point, you're just listening and you just want to hear some volume. But yeah, anything that's involving, you know, production or mixing, absolutely has to, you know, the speaker replacement is fundamental to getting a good sound out of wherever you are.
Yeah, and it's always about equal measure. So if your speakers are 3 foot apart from each other, which is fairly close in a small enclosed area, your ideal listening position will be an equilateral triangle for that measurement. So you would have, if they're 3 meters apart from each other, 3 foot apart from each other, you would then be 3 foot away from each of the speakers to give you that equilateral triangle, a perfect listening environment.
That's right.
Now, this doesn't mean that you have to have 3 meters distance away from you to get a perfect sound and then 3 meters back. You can have this in a really close, enclosed space. As long as it's equal and they are both balanced to the same height as each other and the same angle as each other, you are going to get the best listening position for your environment.
All right, so thirdly, we're going to be discussing the shape of the room and how that's important to the overall sound that you can get out, whatever room that you're in. Shay, how about you take us through that, bro?
Certainly. So, in Studio E, the shape of this room is weird. There's no equal sides, so there's no parallel walls. This is a big deal when listening to music within a mixing environment or a mastering environment, because you get things like standing waves. So parallel surfaces mean that waves have the possibility to go bouncing back and back and back within each other. If you have a room with no parallel edges, it's going to give you a much better, truer representation of the frequencies once they bounce around the room. Now, I completely understand that most of the rooms that you're going to be working in will have parallel edges, because that's just the way of general house architecture. That's just how houses are built. There are a few ways that you can combat this.
One of the things you can do is to cut off the corner of the rooms so you don't have right angles. This is crucial because what it's doing essentially is diffusing those reflections and making sure that you are still getting as much of the original sound source as possible.
A lot of these cut off corner bits are called bass traps, because bass loves a corner. For some reason, bass frequencies love to just bounce around in a corner and stay there. So if you have something that either absorbs these or reflects these, it's going to give you, again, a truer representation of the sound of the room. Your bass frequency or your bass response is going to be much truer to what is coming out of your speakers. So essentially what a bass trap is something that sticks into the corner of a studio that has a right angle on the back, so it's got a right angle triangle on the back of it. But what it does is it cuts off the right angle in the corner. It's made of foam usually. Yeah. It can be made of like a wooden frame with rock wool or insulation inside it that's then covered over with cloth or some kind of clothing type material. But what it is essentially doing is it's just cutting off that corner and just making sure that there isn't any angle that's a right angle. Because remember, bass loves a corner.
It's a great line.
Bass does love
bass
a corner.
Loves
it does
a
love a corner. So now for number 4, what we're going to do is we're going to go downstairs to a smaller room. So we're going to go to the room that me and Jay were in last time. We are going to be going down into there. What we're going to do is do something called room calibration. So we're going to be using a microphone to test out the frequency response within a room. We're going to be using something called SonarWorks. There are other brands and other things that you can use. However, as a student, you do get an education discount if you buy SonarWorks. Now, for more information, we're going to go downstairs, so see us down there. As if by magic, we are downstairs in a production room. And today, I'm going to be using this to calibrate this room.
You're going to have to explain to me what that is to start.
Right, basically, what I'm going to be using is something called SonarWorks. Okay, now what this does is I use a microphone like this, and I hold it towards the speakers, and the speakers play out a tone and little ticks and things like that, and it measures what the frequency response of the room is in comparison to where the microphone is and the sound coming out of the speakers. What it does is it takes all of those readings and then creates a frequency curve which gives you a representation of the frequency of the room. Does that make sense?
Sort of. I'm with you. So
what it's doing is it's kind of painting like sonar, like radar and like sonar. It's kind of painting a picture of the room in terms of frequency.
Right.
So what the frequency response is here, what it is where you are, what it is in your listening position, what it is in the corner of the room. It takes all of those and makes a calculation to give you a true representation of what the room sounds like. So your room at home might be quite boxy sounding. SonarWorks will give you the ability to actually see that and have a definitive answer and a result as to what your room sounds like.
Whoa.
It's crazy, isn't it?
That's crazy. So explain to me how it actually shows you that information.
So say, for instance, this room holds a bit too much bass. It will show you that as like an equalizer analyzer curve.
Okay.
What it will do then is it will apply a negative curve to that to make it flat. So if your room is really high pitched or it's got no bass in it, or for some reason the materials in the room or the size of the room mean that you're just losing bass inside the room in your listening position, what it will do is it will put that bass back in for you by applying an EQ curve that is the difference or the opposite of what the room is. So it equals flat.
Right.
So whatever space you're in, you will get a flat response from your speakers and your listening position.
How does it communicate that information to your speakers?
Just adds an EQ curve to it. So what it will do is it runs its own little program in the computer.
Okay.
And you select whether you want it on or off. So if it's on, all it does is it applies an EQ curve, which is the opposite of what your room does. So it whatever's plus, it minuses to give you that overall 0 flat frequency response.
Gotcha.
It adds that curve to the speaker system or the output of your audio interface that goes to your speakers. So your speakers then play completely flat.
Amazing.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I mean, mind blown.
It's mad, isn't it? This is something that I use at my studio at home, because my studio is probably a lot like your studio. It is in a house. But there's certain things that you can do that you don't have to completely knock the whole room to pieces. You can use something like this in order to do it. So, should we try it?
Let's give it a go.
There's 37 of them.
37 what?
Positions to do.
Are you serious?
Yeah, watch.
37?
Yeah. So now I'm going to use this microphone to move around the room depending on where this software tells me to go. We've already done the calibration, so we know how far away the speakers are from each other and how far away I am from the speakers. But now this is the fun bit. 37 different positions that we need to go through of random placement. Jay's over there, just off camera. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm
Sweet.
good.
Ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's do this. Keep it at ear level.
Only 31 more to go.
So, after much faffing, it's done. So we've calibrated the room. It took 37 different points of positioning wherever this microphone would be. And what it does is it basically takes readings of equal places, left, right, forward, centre, back, and so on. So wherever you are in the room, it should give you a flat response. So what you can see now, once it's been done, is on the screen, if you can see that, I'm not sure if there'll be any glare, but on the screen, what it's done is it showed the before frequency curve and now the after frequency curve. So what you're getting is a equalizing of the frequency response. So if something was too high in frequency, SonarWorks would apply a curve to pull it back down to 0. If it was too low, it would pull it up to 0. So now we're going to get a flat frequency response. Doing this sort of thing is going to make sure that the room that you are working in, wherever you are working in, with whatever speakers you're using, you will be hearing a truer representation of the sound of the music you're listening to. So should we listen to some music?
Yeah, let's go into some.
So this is enabled now.
Yes, I got a lot of weight on my shoulder right now.
Is that speaker on?
Living my life the only way to know how. And I know you wanna bring trouble my way. But I had a crazy vision that we made it someday.
Wow.
And it's the season to keep rocking. Cause now everybody's watching. I guess it's nothing like I said I will survive. So give me a reason to keep clocking. Cause the rhythm ain't no stopping. Throw myself off of the edge, I want to fly. And she said,
That is absolutely amazing.
It's good, isn't it?
Like, I'm like blown. Blown.
It's good, isn't it?
You just realise what's been stripped away.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The tune now sounds a bit more open.
Absolutely.
It's a truer representation.
I mean, it's incredible.
So hopefully, I don't know if you could hear probably coming through the speaker of this phone or the microphone of the phone, but what you're getting is it just opens up the track a lot more. It gets rid of the imperfections of the room for you.
Yeah.
So you do end up hearing what it's supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you, not just for listening to your songs on, but for when you're mixing something,
My goodness.
so much more of a truer representation. You might be taking away frequencies that you don't need to because the room is giving you too much of it.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Good, isn't it?
Absolutely. Cleaner mixes all round.
Yeah, and you don't have to adapt the space that you're working in order to do it. That's the highlight of this.
That's mad.
I will say, I was extremely skeptical about stuff like this because it is just a frequency curve. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just applying an EQ curve to it.
Yeah.
But it's applying an EQ curve directly related to the space and the left and right speaker. I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to go through that again.
37 times.
37 times of doing it. Takes about 20 minutes to do. It's not an advert for SonarWorks. It's just a really good option that you can do it. There are other companies that do this, but the option of being able to calibrate the room rather than manipulate the room and stick panels up and move furniture, leave the room how it is, exactly how you're comfortable in it, and apply something like room calibration software. Good, isn't it?
Absolutely genius.
Sweet.
I mean, yeah, absolutely genius, man.
Awesome. Thank you very much once again. I've been Shea.
I've been Jay.
We'll see you next time, innit?
Cheers.